podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Rap Podcast, the place to catch up on all the regional and national rugby in Wales. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms and message us through there if you want, or you can email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. So all the boring stuff out the way, let's talk rugby.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Rap Podcast with me, Lee G. Joining me as always is Harley and Jamie. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Evening.
And in yet another upgrade in the Ospreys corner, we go from James, who will by now be tired, exhausted, ratty. I mean, his hair would have been all over the place anyway, but you know, he'll just be an absolute mess. So we're joined with Iestyn from the Ospreys, Eyrie, and from Pod Cymru. Evening, Iestyn.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me on. Shout out to James for sending me a message last week saying if I wanted to come on. So, yeah, much appreciated to him for that. And, yeah, still here, just about. University studies nearly coming to an end. And, yeah.
So how many assignments due this week?
Just the one. It was kind of like the last few weeks. It was one Friday, one Tuesday. So it was kind of like, last week is kind of a no-go. But, well, neither was the weekend was, but I spent a lot of time watching a lot of rugby. But, yeah, bit of work tomorrow, then hopefully all done for a week or so.
And is that it then? Are you done for summer?
There's one more. There's a PowerPoint presentation on the 17th of May or something. Then once that's out the way, it's kind of like all done.
A PowerPoint presentation.
Yes.
Back in my day when we did proper stuff, my shortest...
You did it all on a blackboard?
Yes, we did. And we scratched on a slate. But my shortest exam was 2.5 hours long. There was none of this. My son does exactly the same thing. He's got like, I've got 3 practicals this week, and that's my exam's done. And I'm like, you bastard! It's doesn't make me feel any better. Right, let's move on to drink of the week swiftly and start with you, Iestyn, because as always, your drink of the week is.
Not Dr. Pepper this week. I'm on the water, so yeah. I don't know where I'm going to go with this, but yeah, it's weird because every time I say to people, "Oh, I don't do alcohol," just end of. It's either when I'm at an establishment when people are having alcohol, or people have got alcohol in their hand. It makes it really weird because people come up and say, "Oh, keep up that because you save loads of money in the future," and there they are with a pint in their hand, and I'm thinking. How weird. but yeah, I just never really go into it. And well, water's good for you apparently, so I better drink that.
Yeah, but
do you know how many people die of drowning in or around water? It's clearly not that good for you.
Imagine having water flavoured with beer that was made you feel slightly tipsy and slightly like relaxed and all of that kind of stuff. Hey ho. Bitter. Now then you've got your perfect. See, it's just water, just a few additives, mate. That's the way to think of it. Harley, what water additives have you got this week, mate?
So in a mad panic, realising I'd drunk all the only alcohol left at my mum's house was Coors Light, and frankly, I'd rather not bother. I mad panicking on the can shelf in Morrison's. So I've bought a High Wire Zest from Magic Rock Brewing. So this is a Mandarin and Citrus Pale Ale. I'm not going to read any wanky bollocks because there is none. The only thing on there is a list of ingredients and suitable for vegans.
Well,
so that ticks some boxes for me. Tastes a bit to be decided. It's a bit more like if you licked the outside of an orange than the flavour of an orange. But
you lick the outside of an orange. When did you last lick the outside of an orange to check that this is what an orange tastes like, Ali?
Oh, when I was about 5 or 6, but the memory stays with you because I really don't like orange flavour.
All right, okay. Jamie, what have you got, mate?
I have got a beer from Aberdeen would you believe? So this is from Macho Mango Brewery, and it's called Mr. Moocher. So this is a New England IPA. It's 4.9%. In terms of wanky bollocks, there's not a lot on it. It just says, I'm the tower of power, too sweet to be sour, which is, quite nice. So, Macho Mango from Aberdeen, and it's quite nice. It's a lovely hazy colour on it for YouTube watchers. There we go. And, that's my beer of the week,
dense.
Macho Mango.
Well, I got to be fair, 2 top-class cans so far. So we'll put your can up again, Harley. And then,
I mean, it's kind of the reason why I bought it, because it sort of struck out at me. It was one of those.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And yours, and put yours up at the same time, Jim. Go on, you leave yours up, Harley, and then I got mine there as well. So
that's not too bad. Is that a tiger?
Yes, it is. It's a tiger with an angel that's about to fire an arrow at the tiger. Is my one. So my one's called Love and Hate from Vocation Brewery again. Mine's a New England IPA as well, Jim. So and then when you said about you, I really should choose my beers more carefully, because you said about your alcohol level, and I thought, I hadn't checked. 7.2% on this one, which I'm looking forward to. So it's called Love and Hate. Forget crystal clear beers with delicate flavour profiles. Our juicy, unapologetically murky New England IPA is made to leave a lasting impression. Traditionalists will hate it, but to us, it's the one. Oh, now am I a traditionalist? Well, that's what mine looks like, James. So pop
If you're
yours
true
up.
to this, it shouldn't look like that.
Yeah, no, it's about the same. They're
Similar.
not far off. Yeah. Now put yours up, Iestyn. Let's. And
I was
this is.
only going to talk about the minimal amount of rugby I was on. I'm just going to put my water and carry on.
Yes, and hold your water up so we can see as well.
Just this
Don't
is
just
why
feel
you're a
left
student, mate. Right. Okay. Let's crack on with some news desk then, Jamie. What have we got on news desk this week, mate?
Okay, well, we would have mentioned this on the last pod, but Cardiff were being buggers and they didn't announce the news until after we finished recording. So, Ellis Jenkins will retire from rugby at the end of this season. Jenkins has made almost 150 appearances for Cardiff and he won 15 caps for Wales. Now, unfortunately for Jenkins, his farewell appearance at the Arms Park didn't go to plan on the weekend as he left the field after only 27 minutes with a head injury. He failed his HIA. So, Harley, I know you've spoken about Ellis on your Cardiff Central pod, so if anyone wants to listen to that tribute, they can do. But fantastic player, just very, very cruel luck with injuries, wasn't it? You know, we remember when we all talked about Ellis being the future Wales captain, he was going to be the next Warburton, and he really should have had, 50 plus caps, shouldn't he? But unfortunately, injury just put paid to that. So wishing Ellis all the very best. Staying with Cardiff, then Matt Sherratt, he's received a 6-game ban with 5 games suspended for 12 months. So this was because of a interaction between Sherratt and Mike Adamson, the referee of the Ulster Cardiff game in Belfast. As we know, there were some controversial decisions made during that game. So he's also going to attend an online referee course and he's subject to a suspended fine of £2,500 for 12 months. While Cardiff is subject to a suspended fine of $5,000 for 12 months. So he served his first game ban against Edinburgh, wasn't it? So that's suspended from there on in. This is interesting news. Former Cardiff defence coach Richard Hodges, he's landed a job with the Italian national team. So Hodges departed Cardiff for Seabrook at the end of last season, and he's now going to leave Seabrook this summer to become an assistant to Gonzalo Casadas. That's a pretty good job, and best of luck to him there. And then from the Dragons, so they've announced 2 new signings today. So Dragons have announced that they've signed South African back Chris Hollis from the Stormers with immediate effect. The 25-year-old can play centre and wing. Hollis played youth rugby for the Bulls before featuring for the Kings, Greek and Lions before heading to the Stormers. He's had very little game time for the Stormers, but this is a guy that looks quite powerful and he's got a good ball carrying option. So he needs game time and we need a bit of power and ball carrying in the centre, especially with Jack Dixon retiring. So that'll be interesting to see how he goes. And it's only a short-term signing as well. So if it doesn't work out, we can just let him go. It's low risk, so it's worth taking the punt on, I think. And they've just announced another signing, Solomon Funaki from Monaco Pacifica and Super Rugby. So he's a 30-year-old who specialises at number 8, but can also play across the back row. He's supposed to be tough and uncompromising. So, that sounds exactly what the Dragons need right now. So, that's all the news that I have for this week.
So, when you next attend the Cardiff game, Harley, you need a T-shirt or a banner or something that you'll find in a Monty Python shop. So he's not the Messiah; he's a very naughty boy, and you've got to get him to wear it. You've got to get Sharrett to put his "he's a very naughty boy" T-shirt on.
I have that T-shirt.
I was gonna say, I bet you've got it, haven't you? Yeah.
Oh, how convenient.
It's what I was wearing. It's what I was wearing in work today, but I spilt my bangers and mash down it before coming on. So I thought I'm vaguely professional. I won't come on with food stains down me. But the Matt Sharrett thing, I think, is just utterly bollocks. So Matt Sharrett has to go do a referee and awareness course when you're there thinking, surely Mike Adamson, the touch judges need to go on an awareness course so they know, that you're not supposed to boot, and it's still a kick. If the ball makes contact with your foot, it's classed as a kick no matter what. So that's still kicking the ball out. And if a player is in front of you and the ball goes into their hands and then goes in front of them onto the floor, that's a knock on. And you should probably call that before they go 12 phases and score a try.
Well,
and I don't know what he said because he was very well behaved on our pod talking about refereeing.
Well, that's what he got done for saying something in the tunnel, didn't he? It was a conversation in the tunnel, so it wasn't. He didn't necessarily say anything in public. It was all very right. I'll have a go at you in the tunnel. But if you look at the Scarlets game from the weekend, and I think it was 26 minutes, there's a ruck. And the ball pops out of the back of the ruck, hits the scrum half's feet. The scrum half taps it back into the ruck. As Plumtree comes around the side, because the ball is out, he taps it back into the ruck. The player that's just thrown the ball out of the ruck catches the ball and places it back on the floor. Play on. So it's, let's just say there's work to be done in that respect for referees. We try not to criticize referees, but you criticize players when they don't have a good game in a constructive way. And I know a referee's and I've said this many times before, it's not the referee, it's the TMO. The TMO was brought in to protect the referee from making shit decisions because the referee can only see what he can see. TMOs are just not stepping up. They're just not doing what they were brought in to do. So, in
fairness, there are limits on what they are allowed to bring in. But speaking of refs, I bumped into Frank Murphy after the Cardiff Edinburgh game. He was very quickly getting out of the way, which actually I thought was quite, because despite what a lot of other people thought, I thought he refed it quite well. Like usually after you have an issue with a referee, usually the referees seem to get their own back and you get really shafted. But I actually thought Frank had a fair game. But we'll get on to that one then.
We'll talk about that in a minute. So let's go in playing order. So first match on Friday night was Scarlets and Sharks. We lost 27-32. I mean, it's hard because there was potential there to win some of that. There were some pretty iffy decisions at but the amount of times you went to the TMO to not give a try was when the TMO's looking at you and going like, no, it's a try. It's, yeah. I've reviewed it once. Really, quite obviously a try. Was there a knock on? Nope. No knock-ons. No. Was there a knock-on in the build? No. It's a try. It's a try. So even when you got that against you, I mean, at least it was an 80-minute performance. That's the good thing. It was an 80-minute performance. We didn't capitulate. We didn't give in at any point. They came fully loaded. I think they had 4 World Cup winners in the starting 15. So, it wasn't a weak side that they put out against us. And we held it well. I thought it was one of the best performances of the season, but we still lost. So, it's hard to say, listen, that was our best win, our best game so far this year, but we still lost. So, a bit harsh. What I will say, their outside half, that boy can kick. There was nothing that he couldn't kick. It was a pleasure to watch. If he hadn't have been playing against us, it would have been a real pleasure to watch him, because, there was conversions from the touchline, there were chips over the top, there were crossfield kicks, there was a penalty in his own half, and he put it in for a line out in our 5 yards. He just absolutely melted everything. So it was a great performance. Just shit that we came off second best. So, did anybody else watch it? Anybody else got any views?
That was a good game, wasn't it? I really enjoyed it. I thought there were some really good individual performances of Scards. I thought Johnny Williams looked very, very good. Tane Plumtree was excellent, considering he hasn't long come back from injury. He was absolutely everywhere. And Johan Nicholas as well. He's one of those guys that's one of Welsh Rugby's most underrated players, isn't he? I like about Johan Nicholas. He's always consistent. He never has a bad game, and I thought he was absolutely fantastic. But when you looked at the lineups before the game, there's a lot to it. Talk, Scarlets are going to get absolutely battered. I mean, it was a fully loaded Sharks team. But in credit to the Scarlets, I thought they put in a very encouraging performance. That's one performance you can look at and say, yeah, there's something to build on there. So I thought it was a really good effort for the Scarlets, all things considered. But it's green shoots, I think, from the Scarlets, and takes a little bit of pressure off Dwayne Peel, because the crowd really got behind the Scarlets, didn't they? And you could feel that the crowd were really getting behind the players and getting behind the coach. So it's good stuff from Scarlets. Much improved after the Edinburgh debacle, I think it's fair to say, isn't it?
It's a shame that there's a week off now to not back it up, and build a little bit of momentum. But we said that after the Benetton game, and then we got stuffed. So we'll build momentum, we'll build a positivity, we'll go into the next game, and we got fucking tanked. So maybe that's what we need. Maybe we just need to play one game every 2 weeks, and then we'll be fine. We'll put Llandovery out for the midweek game, the game in between, and then we'll only play every other week. We'll win every home game. Halfway up the table, I'll settle for that. I could live with that. We'll do that. So, Harley, Iestyn, did you manage to watch any of the Scarlets game?
Yeah, I thought it was one of the best performances I've seen from Scarlets in a long while. I think Costello will definitely benefit having Johnny Williams on form, just because if having that release valve, it's the thing we always talk about when you've got a really nice young attacking 10, is just having a player who you can pass the ball to and things like going well, and they're going to make meters. Thought Tane Plumtree was great. He's Wales' 6 now for the next million years, I think Catboy said. But I think Alex Mann also had a great game, but there we go. But do you know what? If Alex Mann isn't being called up to Wales duty, great for me. So yeah, I thought it's mostly. I mean, someone made a comment about Mackenzie Mathias getting a tune in the scrum, and you're like, he was up against a 2-time World Cup winner. Yeah. Of course, he was getting tuned in the fucking scrum.
He did have a very tough time though, didn't he? In fairness, Mackenzie Mathias, but like you said, yes, up against Vincent Cox, so fair play. Yeah, the scrum really struggled for Scarlets. That's the one negative from that game. But then when you look at the Sharks pack, you're like, well, understandable.
It didn't matter that much, really. Like, sometimes when these teams and your scrum's getting absolutely pulverised, that's it. Your game's completely buggered. Cardiff always have it against the Ospreys. They tune us in the scrum, and then we've got nothing. But the Scarlets were able to get around that by just not dropping the ball.
But there were bits in here, and we've said this earlier, that if your scrum isn't your strong point, then you need a quick way of getting the ball in and out, which they did.
Yes.
So it came out in between the flankers. It was route one ball in, out. Thank you very much, gone. And it was only really on their ball where there were a couple where it got held in and what have you. But by and large, when we wanted to play quick ball, we were able to, because we'd worked out that we could do that. So again, that's an improvement. And Kemsey Mathias had a try. So tanked in the scrum but scored a try. So Iestyn, how did James feel about his newborn son's first game being a Scarlets game? How happy was he with that, mate?
I think you'll have to ask him for that particular question. I can give my thoughts on the game, and I thought the Scarlets did play quite well. Obviously, you were maybe expecting the Sharks to come out on top in the scrum, and they certainly did that. And when you see the Sharks score with such ease in the first few minutes off that line-up play, which was excellent, lovely hands by Am and Fassi in the build-up, and Werner Cox scores 1 of 3 on his 50th game. Who is gonna? I think Ulster supporters will really enjoy him next season, regardless of how many injuries they will pick up. But yeah, it's definitely a bit more encouragement around the Scarlets at the moment. You look at the first half against Edinburgh, where it was rather positive. Then obviously Edinburgh came back and took the game in the second half. So I think for the Scarlets, they just need to keep on building that momentum. Certainly for the run-in, if they can get three wins, all right, going away to Ulster is a little bit tricky, but if you can really focus on Judgment Day to go into that last game of the season, if you can get a win after that to end the season on a high, then you can build up into next season and looking to go a little bit better.
See, Jamie will know that I just absolutely hate Judgment Day. Playing Dragons on Judgment Day just doesn't appeal to me in any way, shape or form, because they always turn us over and it's never any fun. And I hate it. I don't know why we do it, but we do it every fucking year and it pisses me off.
And long may it continue. That's what I say.
Because it's East versus West, and for some reason we've got to keep playing the fucking Ospreys every time.
Yeah. See, nobody's
just
happy
a similar
with it.
level of misery.
Yeah, nobody's happy with it. Right, let's move on to Bulls and Ospreys. So, Iestyn, how did you get out of watching this one, mate?
I was working at the WA Women's National Cup finals. There was 3 matches on. Well, 4 if you count the Wales Women's game against Italy.
Which you should.
Yeah, I should and I will. I wasn't technically working on that game though. I didn't file a report where I did for the 3 games afterwards. So I obviously I didn't really class that, but that was like the curtain raiser for the 3 finals. And I switch on S4C Click on my laptop, just a brief build-up before the first final gets underway, and I see David Creel pick up an intercept and run into score before half time. And I'm thinking, okay, that's, intercepts happen. The Ospreys are very good at giving intercepts away. They've done that a couple of times against Munster, and it seems to be the case again. And then I've opened it up again near the end of the game as the first final was going on, and I see Willie LaRue pick up an intercept and run in from about 95 metres. So that kind of summed up that Ospreys performance, I think. It's a tough one to take. I think the Bulls are probably one of the best sides I think I've seen in the URC this season. I know the table will say otherwise, and they're not where Leinster and Glasgow are, but in terms of, they got so much power up front. And when Glasgow came to Swansea, you didn't really see kind of that because the Ospreys packed fronted up rather well. But there's so much danger and pace out wide. Someone like Kanan Moody, Lee Arenso on the wings, that's very good for a wing pairing, isn't it? And someone like a double World Cup winner and Willie LaRue at fullback, it's a bit good. And the Ospreys, I think the Rugby paper described it as a new low for the Ospreys. And
a new low? That's a strange way to describe
it. It's an interesting headline.
Did they forget Alan Clark exists?
Yeah.
I was going to get onto the Alan Clark era, but in a way, I think it's their heaviest defeat in the ORC, and it's certainly probably the heaviest defeat under the Toby Booth, and certainly during his reign at the Ospreys. So you could, well, not in a way you kind of see it, but in terms of conceding 9 tries and things like that, and obviously not getting the bonus point, which could be crucial in the run into the top 8. The Ospreys have a few games now have lost opportunities either by, particularly against Edinburgh, where they messed up the line out near the end of the game, particularly against the Bulls, where they didn't get a point. Obviously, cruelly against Munster, where Alex Cuthbert's hamstring decides to go pop. It seems to be all catching up a little bit, that these odd moments are costing a few points, which could be so vital in that run in for the top 8. But Bulls were just streets ahead, I feel. And if they can get themselves together, obviously they had a bit of a blip with sending their alleged second team out to Northampton, then losing at home to Munster. If they can get that momentum back in them, I think they'll be one of the dark horses to win the ORC, because I wouldn't want to go out to South Africa and face them if they get a home quarterfinal.
That was the problem, though, wasn't it? Them losing to Munster, there was always that danger of a backlash, and unfortunately, the Ospreys got on the receiving end. But actually, if you look at this tour as a whole, I think if you said to Osprey supporters, we're going to get 5 points out this tour, they'd bite your hand off, wouldn't they? It's just, I know it's an ugly scoreline and the performance wasn't great, but I still think on the whole, it's been a successful tour for the Ospreys, because a lot of supporters were saying, let's hope we can get 2 try bonus points out of it. Well, they got 5. So now is when it really starts to heat up the business end. They've got to get something out of Leinster. And you wouldn't bet against the Ospreys getting 5 points against the Dragons at home. And they've got a good record against Cardiff, so you wouldn't bet them, getting the 5 points against Cardiff either at Judgment Day. It's still on for the Ospreys. It is still on. This is a temporary setback. I still think they're on the right track.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, because the way that the OSC is kind of working out over the last few weeks, regardless what the Ospreys do, teams around them are picking up wins. You look at the Lions last weekend, you're thinking, Leinster could do a little bit of a favour for the Ospreys here by winning. And then Lions beat them 44 points to 12, and you're thinking that's not gone to plan. Then you're thinking, you're looking at the Stormers, who are now a little bit closer to the Ospreys in terms of after the win out in South Africa. Leinster go out there thinking, right, they can do us a little favour, maybe an apology from last week. They go and lose by some scoreline which was rather similar, and a cracking final try with that little dummy switch. That's one to watch if you haven't seen it on the social media. But I spoke to my dad, funny enough, earlier about it, and he was saying, if the Ospreys, we kind of aimed for this tour to for the 3 away games, Stormers, Bulls, and Leinster. If we got 3 points out of it, it would have been rather delighted. After 2 games, they're sat on 5. So if they can go to Dublin, who knows? The Ospreys tend to do weird things out in Dublin. I don't know why. They either lose rather heavily or sneak a win out of nothing. And so if they could pick a point out in Dublin, maybe 8 or 9 in the final 2 derbies, then it's there or thereabouts, and it's going to be really close for that last few playoff spots, I think.
See, I've got a theory about when Ospreys visit Leinster, and it's to do with our old host Carwyn. So if he goes to watch Ospreys in Leinster, then weird stuff happens, because he just kind of radiates weird stuff.
Energy, to be fair.
He does, doesn't he? He'll walk into the Leinster home changing room and start changing, or and everyone will go, "Oh, okay, yeah, just carry on," because that's what he does and stuff. But we'll have a look at the league table and what have you in a mo. So,
look, I've got it all up.
See,
Teacher's pet has got it
I've
all
also got
ready.
the Welsh Shield.
Of course,
got the Welsh Shield, which actually all 4 regions can win the Welsh Shield still.
How can Dragons win it? How can they win it?
If you beat both Scarlets and Ospreys with bonus points, and Cardiff beat Ospreys without a bonus point, you get the Shield.
I think
that's not happening then. We can rule that one out.
Oh, I don't know.
But so all 3. So if Ospreys beat Dragons with a bonus point, then it's all wrapped up, and the Judgment Day is just a complete dead rubber. Without a bonus point, then Cardiff just about still have a chance to do it, but that would involve them that would be a Troy bonus point win without Ospreys getting anything.
How does Scarlet
But also,
score?
if Dragons and Cardiff both beat the Ospreys, we do end up with a really weird thing where every region has beaten one region both home and away, lost to one region home and away, and then another one they've got 50-50, which is the first time that's ever happened.
You've really researched this,
I'm
Andy.
gonna
I can
say-
tell. He's really done his homework on this, isn't he? Old teacher's pet by year. He's really looked into it, haven't
This
he?
is what happens when I'm just stuck in like a spare box room, and away from my wife and kids. I suppose I could video call them, but I'd much rather do rugby nerdery.
If I put so much detail into my university work, I wouldn't be worrying about it right now.
Yeah, the problem is me putting all this detail into things led me to doing a PhD, spending 5 years in Exeter, and now just really questioning my life choices.
Right, let's. Speaking of questioning life choices, Harley, let's talk Cardiff Edinburgh. You went to see the game. That was a bit of a bad choice. So how did it go?
Well, I mean, saw the Wales women game first. Sort of thought I'd do it as a double header because I thought, right, I'm allowed to go to one more game, so it was either going to be Judgment Day or this one. And I thought, I really don't fancy doing Cardiff City Stadium. That's the place I go to watch the Phonics. And anyway, but so I thought we'd watch that, and it seemed quite good. Edinburgh showing Cardiff very little respect in the first half, just going for the corner, and we were repelling them. It was great. Finally bludgeoned over. Unfortunately, Cardiff were equally terrible on the other side. So they make a nice break, or they get some field position, and then they'd cock up part of the line, the first fave long net move, or they'd go for endless pick and goes and get turned over, or they'd knock the ball on, and it was just such a typical irritating Cardiff performance. Anyway, it's still holding on well. We lost Ellis Jenkins early, then we lost Harry Millard, which wasn't ideal, since it meant that we had basically a midfield of a 10 who plays, or a 12 who can play 10, 15 who can play 12 or 10, and then Mason Grady on the wing. And it just we lost a sort of midfield Bosch character, so that didn't help us. As good as Jacob Beetham is at running a crash ball. And then, yeah, by the end, it was just walking wounded. Thomas Young went off, so it looks like that's his season. So we've probably lost both of our first choice sevens now. Cam Winnett was hobbling. There was one moment in that game, though, which is still brilliant and was completely worthwhile. Duhan van der Merwe gets high tackles a Cardiff player, gets yellow carded, and the whole of the Arms Park starts booing him. Now, most players in that situation sort of put their head down. Not Dewey. Dewey's just like this. And I fucking loved it for it. And, and bless him, at the end of the game, he was mobbed by fans from both sides of the team, to the point security had to lead him away because he was going to miss the Edinburgh bus back. So the game itself was just a bit crap and very typical Cardiff we just missed a load of chances, and then the 6-2 bench didn't really work as well as it had done against Ulster, because I think we had to bring on players because they were crop, not necessarily because of tactics. And and if Edinburgh are bringing on Willem Matter, who was the second top carrier after only playing 25 minutes, you're in for a bad day.
So talk to me about, before the game, they published the interview with Rhys Carey that said, "I'm leaving Wales because of Warren Gatland," to coin a phrase, to summarise the overview. So was he kind of psyched up and trying to show stuff, or was he, I'm on a jolly until I go and I don't want to get injured before I go? How was he? So that's my first one. And the second one is, why are Cardiff picking up so many injuries? Because it's like the good old days now where, they're falling like 9 pins. So off you go on those.
So the first, Ellis Jenkins was a failed HIA. That happens, especially in the abrasive positions. Thomas Young, he went to go for a jackal and he got cleared out and they went onto his arm. I think it's just a freak. That was just a sort of freak incident in the clear out. He got twisted the wrong way. Cam Winnett, basically, he was imperious under the air as always, but still perfectly legal. But obviously, Edinburgh trying to kick to compete, and he's going up in the air. He's going these high balls and he lands awkwardly. So that's all those injuries. Millard was just a very hard tackle. Again, there's nothing in it. That's just what happens. As for the Reece Carey stuff, he's been playing like he's been playing all season, which is bloody well. Held up against VP now quite well in the scrum. We actually got a decent bit of change out of them. They were trying to go early and trying to get a nudge on, and Carey just had enough weight to just sort of hold himself there. Domachowski similar. Took his try well, very classic Reece Carey try from lovely angle from 5 meters out, just to sort of power over and go over. Shame we couldn't have got about 3 more of those, because that would have been quite helpful. Yeah, I mean he's definitely committed, because he did say in that interview as well. It's nothing to do with Cardiff. It's just that because of all the shit in Wales, not just because of Gatland selection, but the finances. He's on a certain wage, and if he's not getting into Wales camps, he's not able to go that next bit up. And Saris are like, we need a replacement for Mako Vunipola. Here is a Mako Vunipola size wage packet. And he's gone, thank you. And kind of, there is also the allure that he could requalify for England, but I doubt that will happen. I don't think he'd replay, because I think by that point England they'll have at least someone other than Joe Marler to play loose head for them.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't bank on it. They do seem to.
Ongoing law of averages. They must find someone.
It's got to be someone. Okay, cool. Let's move on then to another game similar to the Scarlet Sharks. Jane, you must have thought for quite a large part of the game that one lucky bouncer were in here, and this is it. How did it feel watching that game?
Well, I mean, I'll start off by saying that this was a much better performance than the one against Benetton last week. And I think that we needed to see a reaction from the Dragons, because last week was simply unacceptable. And to be fair, they did respond. There's been a few games this season where I've questioned the effort and commitment from the Dragons, especially away from home. This is one of those games where you could see the effort and commitment. So that was encouraging. And I think what pleased me the most about this game was every time Connacht looked like they were pulling away, we kept coming back into it. We didn't lie down, because we've often seen with the Dragons that once teams pull away, they just lie down and roll over. That's what happened at Cardiff. It happened away to Sharks, and it's happened at Glasgow. But this time it didn't happen. We stayed in the fight, and that's really encouraging. Connacht scoring a try in the first 3 minutes. You're thinking, oh, here we go. And it came from another error. A poor kick from Roger Williams just gives them easy territory, easy ins to our 22. They crash over, and you're thinking, oh, it's going to be a long night. And then 19-7, I have to admit, I didn't see us coming back from it. But fair play, we did. We pushed Connacht all the way, and we gave them a good scare. When it was 27-all, I did think we would go on to win it. And I think, it would have been well deserved, because I thought we showed a lot of promise, a lot of grit, a lot of endeavour. But that red card to Ben Carter, that changed the game. I mean, as soon as that happened, then Connacht were always going to win. Now, about this red card, so there's been a lot of debate about this, and I understand why Ben Carter was sent off, because his head contact, shoulder to head, by the letter of the law, it is a red card. I get that. However, I do have a lot of sympathy for Ben Carter, because Jennings came at him at pace, right? When you watch it in real time, Ben Carter has not got a lot of time to reduce his tackle height. He just hasn't, and he's a big guy. So when you're coming at him at pace, it's only a split second he's got to actually, reduce his tackle height. And I watched the game back this morning, and Alex Cuthbert said something similar to this. We'll see. He said that Ben Carter just hasn't got that time. It's happened so quickly. You have to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I just felt them, I felt a bit sorry for him, because I know intent is irrelevant and all that sort of thing. But, it looked like Jennings just ran into Carter. He stood upright. He didn't have really much time to react and reduce his tackle height. And he come off worse for it. That was the ironic thing. Carter was the one that come off worse, but he ended up getting a red card. So, yeah, I understand why he was given a red card. Led to the law, shoulder to head, I get it. But at the same time, I just felt a little bit harsh, a little bit unlucky. But and it was a shame, because that did turn the game, because I thought that we had Connacht on the ropes at that point. They were looking nervy. We came back into the game. But, yeah, I think once that red card happened, it was obvious then that Connacht were going to sort of get the win, and they got what they came for. They needed the 5 points and they got it. It comes at a cost for them though, because JJ Hanlon went off with a very serious knee injury. Watching the game back, I don't know if you heard it, but you could hear his cries of pain on the ref mic. He was in a lot of pain. It was strange how it happened. So Jordan Williams sort of nudges him. It doesn't look like it's that bad. He sort of nudges him off the ball. Then he just crumpled on the floor. He was in absolute agony. So that's a big blow for Connor, because JJ Hanlon has been superb for the season. And they lost Dennis Buckley as well. They lost Kian Prendergast. So that's really going to put a dent, I think, for their top 8 hopes. But from a Dragons perspective, look, it was an improvement. It was a gritty performance, but poor discipline and too many errors was our undoing. And this is something I've spoken about so many times on this podcast and on the Dragons Layer podcast that I do, about the errors that we just keep making. We kicked the ball out on the full 4 times. Roger Williams did it 3 times. It's just not acceptable, is it? He's a professional rugby player. You can't keep making those errors week in, week out. To do it once is fine, but when you keep making the same errors, to do it 3 times in a game, it's unforgivable, I think. It's just not good enough for this. It comes down to poor coaching, and the players have to take responsibility and ownership of their errors as well. So, yeah, it's disappointing, but we did get a bonus point. So we're 1 point above Zebra, 1 point now behind the Scarlets, and we got the Stormers now in 2 weeks. So that's going to be another tough game, isn't it? But we go again. But this week, I feel a little bit more optimistic, because I did see what I don't see enough of the Dragons. I saw character, I saw grit. They didn't give up, but we need to be seeing that on a weekly basis and not every now and then. So, yeah, some positives at least for the Dragons, I think, for this week.
Okay, well, let's have a quick look at the table before we have a look at the women's game. So we've got Ospreys in 10th on 40 points, Lions in 11th on 39. So, but when you look at that, Iestyn, 40 points in 10th, yeah, but 1 decent win and you're up to 6th, so it's tasty, isn't it? This is where you want to be at the end of the season, isn't it? In terms of a league, you want to have competition for something at the end of the season. Being that close to the top 8 is quite good, but then looking at your run-in, and you'd go, maybe not, because you've got Leinster, then Dragons, then Cardiff, haven't you? So what are you thinking about where you are there? So you've gone from 7th last, or 6th or 7th, down to 10th. How's it feeling?
It just would be very typical Ospreys, because I think the last 2 seasons of the URC, I think you need something like 46 to 48 points to get into the top 8. And it would be very typical of the Ospreys to get, say, if they got 9 points out of the last 3 games, so maybe a losing bonus point away in Leinster, or a try-bonus point away in Leinster, then 2 victories against the Dragons and Cardiff. It would be very typical Ospreys to set a new points record and not get in the playoffs. So the most amount of points, but not get into the top 8. So it would be very typical Ospreys to finish on 49 points and finish 9th. But it seems really, really tight. Sides like Edinburgh, Benetton, Connacht, the Stormers are still rather close as well, despite their win over Leinster on the weekend. Ulster supporters are saying they're in crisis season, yet there they are sat in 7th. And it's just so close. And I think the fixtures of the next few weeks, I think are going to be quite big. I think off the top of my head, I think Edinburgh are playing one of the sides that are in there or thereabouts. Obviously, Ulster played Benetton last weekend, and it was that was quite a high scoring game on the Friday night. So yeah, it's looking very close. Like I said earlier, there's been chances where the Ospreys might have not thrown, but lost an opportunity to maybe gain a couple of points here and there. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite them, but you sense with the run-in coming up, it could easily do that. But if being brutally honest, I think I predicted the Ospreys to finish 11th this season. So anywhere higher than that is a real positive.
I'll remind you of that in a couple of weeks, mate. So Harley, Cardiff in 12th on 25 points, didn't pick up any points on the weekend. Are we feeling confident about, well, yeah, how are we feeling about being in 12th?
Well, I was thinking, like when we were talking about this just before this last block, thinking I think we should secure 12th. I think it'd be fine. Like Sharks haven't been that great. They might be focusing more on the Challenge Cup. And frankly, to be honest, for me, the Edinburgh game was probably our best chance to get the 4th win of the season, and we royally spaffed it, which is rather annoying. Yeah, and I don't know where these extra points. So I mean, Sharks are only 2 points away, and we've got to go play them on their backyard. And I know what happened last season, but I don't think they're going to be resting a lot of players. The only thing that might give us hope is if they win their semi-final next weekend and they decide to keep all their big box, which is part of the reason they travelled for the Scarlets games, because they're playing the student this weekend. If they decide to keep them ready keep them in London for the final the following week, or in 2 weeks' time, but I very much doubt they're going to do that. I think they'd rather just fly them back. So then we might get a second team, but I doubt it. And I definitely don't see us beating the Lions up in Ellis Park. They're just too good at scoring tries, and I think that one of the biggest problems with Cardiff is for all the lovely play, we've not been getting over the line. We're averaging about 2.5 tries a game. Where ideally in this league, it's looking like you need to be getting close to 3.5 to be in that top. If you look at the top things, they're all averaging, a lot more tries than anyone on the bottom half.
So is anybody else
just depressing?
Is anybody else shocked that Harley's just spent 3 minutes talking there and not mentioned that Cardiff nilled the Sharks in South Africa a couple of seasons ago? Because it deserves no. I think it deserves a mention somewhere there.
It was last season. I did allude to it. I just didn't use the extra score.
He did mention it in passing, but yeah, he's got a very valid point about the Sharks and the way they're going to London this weekend and their semi-final. Would they play Claremont? Are they playing? I think in the Challenge Cup, and yeah, so it could happen that the Sharks maybe keep some of their top players, in London ahead of the final if they get there. But yeah, it would be rather cruel on Cardiff if they went to the final and sent all the South Africans home just to play Cardiff. But then again, it would be very Cardiff to win out in South Africa like last season. So who knows?
They need to win, though, couldn't they?
And I don't think we'd beat the Ospreys either in Judgment Day. I imagine it'll be a very typical Cardiff Ospreys. It'll be a very typical Cardiff Ospreys game, and they're just going to scrum and maul us off the park. Go full booth ball.
But Cardiff haven't won since Boxing Day. That's the thing. They have not won a game in 2024. We're the end of April, and they've lost 9 games in a row. In any other season, fans would be screaming blue murder, but there's so much feel good around Cardiff now that it's being overlooked, and I find that quite interesting. But
I think this is purely a one-off. Like if this happened this time next season, I don't think it's gonna.
Yeah, it can't. It can't continue like this.
And to be honest, as much as there's a feel-good factor, there's still plenty of. It's supposed to be. On Saturday it's supposed to be a big send-off game. Everyone going onto the pitch, say goodbye to all the departing players. Just have the thing. I think they booked the bar underneath the south stand for the players and families to have a couple of drinks. But there were people leaving out like 70 minutes, which very rarely happens at the Arms Park. Because it wasn't even a close game, really. If anything, the scoreline flattered Cardiff a bit, but it also just showed how crap Edinburgh are at certain things as well. Like if they'd taken a few more penalties in the first half, I reckon Cardiff's heads would have dropped a lot more. But it's just depressing. Can we go on to the other two?
Yeah,
unless you want me to talk about some interesting things about the table in general.
Before Harley starts wrecking the room and walks out in a strop. So below Cardiff
is crying on camera.
below Cardiff, the Sharks on 23 points, and below the Sharks on 17 points are the Scarlets. But again, only 3. The weird thing is that the Sharks have got 4 wins, but the Sharks are below you. and above us. So
That's because
we're
we've got so many losing bonus points.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know. So you know, what you say if you're a Scarlet this year? It's not been great, but you know we've constantly seen little bits of stuff that you can cling to. Are we? The encouraging thing for us is we play Ulster, where we've got two coaches who used to play for Ulster, so there's a little bit of grind there against Ulster, and Ulster are kind of not in a great place really. You know, their expectations are way ahead of where they're sitting, so the feeling in camp isn't great, whereas the feeling in the Scarlets camp is actually improving quite significantly, apparently. And then we play the two teams below us in the league. So, you know, I say below us, it's not like there's a massive gap between ourselves and the Dragons and Zebra, but it's encouraging. If we play the way we did against the Sharks for the last three games, if we maintain that for the last three games, I'm quite comfortable that we'll have 2 wins out of that. And maybe another losing bonus point, which will be a good return, I think, on those last 3 games. So, yeah, will we go ahead of the Sharks? It really does depend on what the Sharks do in Europe and how they treat Europe. So, you know, I think we're all hoping Sharks kind of focus a little bit more on Europe and not so much on the URC, and that might kind of be to our benefit, but we'll see. So, yeah, it is what it is. We're 1 place above the Dragons, and how is it feeling being 1 place above the bottom of the table, Jay? Because you said all season you're expecting Dragons to finish bottom. How does it feel being 1 place above expectations?
Well, we are a bottom 2 team. You know, we finished 15th last season, didn't we? We always tend to be in the bottom 2 anyway, but there is a real danger the Dragons could finish last when you look at their remaining fixtures. So you wouldn't fancy them to beat the Stormers, would you? So you'd hope that maybe they can get a bonus point, whether that be a try bonus point or a losing bonus point. And then you look at the next game, Ospreys away, but they haven't beaten Ospreys in Swansea since 2010. But, you know, Ospreys are going to be gunning for that top 8 place, so they're going to target us for 5 points. So I don't see Dragons winning there. Probably our best chance of a win is against Scarlets, a Judgment Day, which, as you know, Lee, we have done a few times in the past. So it also depends on Zebra. Are they going to pick up any remaining points from their fixture, you know? Because if we're not picking up any points for Zebra pick-up points, then there is a danger we could be overtaken. But, you know, I was thinking about this today. I remember before the season started, I wrote on Twitter that my prediction for the Dragons was 14th. I had people saying to me, oh, you know, I thought you'd place them higher than that, you know, with the signings they made. I thought you'd be, you know, put them a bit higher. But if we finish 14th, I think that'd be pretty good, considering how the season has gone. But I don't see us overtaking the Scarlets. But for us now, it's about trying to avoid finishing bottom and finishing above Zebra. But it has been another disappointing season because I think a lot of people expected, you know, I had some people telling me that Dragons could be the best Welsh team, and I was like, no, that ain't going to happen. But I do think there was an expectation with the budgets coming down, everybody on the level playing field, the Dragons were going to be a bit better and a bit more competitive. I mean, we should have beaten Edinburgh the first game of the season at home. That was a missed opportunity. We could have beaten Cardiff at home. That was a missed opportunity. And we just keep making errors all the time. So that don't help, of course. But yeah, it's a real dogfight at the bottom, isn't it? You know, if they finish last, so yeah, I mean, the only way is up for us, I guess. But I can only see us beating Scarlets, really. I don't see us getting anything out of Stormers or Ospreys, I'm afraid.
I think you'll take Ospreys, mate. They're a bag of shit. Not right, Iestyn.
Right, yeah. No.
if it was in Newport, I would probably agree with you, but it's you know, I don't know what it is, but the Dragons in Swansea, I just compare them to the reverse fixture in Newport. It's like a completely different side. I don't know what it's about. It might be more on the Ospreys' behalf, if anything, but I don't know. I wouldn't go around saying the Dragons would win in Swansea. But knowing the Ospreys, they would slip up and lose all 3 of their last remaining fixtures and finish 12th or something.
Oh my God, I can imagine.
I just think they're all
James's
confused. They see all the empty seats, thinking, "Hang on, is it kicked off yet?"
Right, let's avoid that conversation now, boys. So Harley, you went to watch Wales Women, yes, then you were there as well. Just give us a quick rundown of what you felt of that game, boys.
Let's
Go
go
on,
first,
yes.
Iestyn.
Go
I'll
on,
go
yeah, you go
first.
first.
Yeah, it was a good performance, I thought, by Wales in the end. A really funny story from the Principality Stadium as after the cup finals. I was trying to go down the lift to get out of the Principality Stadium, and I see the officiating side from the women's game. So Amy Barrett there on, and the two touch judges and the TMO. And from one of there was in the lift, there was a team. I can't remember the name of the team, but who had played in the finals for the evening, and the lift was a bit crammed, so I decided, oh, I'm just going to wait for the next one. But Amy Barrett Theron decides to go onto this lift, and straight away, one of the players who had played in the cup final asked, "So why did you give that knock on right at the end of the game?" And it's just straight away. There was no hesitation, just straight to the question. And that was one of the moments that was really interesting. But back to the rugby, it was good to see, there was quite a lot of emotion showed by Johan Kingham near the end of the game, especially during the full time whistle, and you can see the togetherness of the players and the coaches when the players came on with and piled in on the celebrations during the post match interview. So that's obviously good to see. But in terms of the games itself, Wales started off rather strong, and then scored that really lovely try with the Lisa Butchers coming in from the front of the line out to take the ball, and then Italy just kind of hit back straight away, and you're thinking, this doesn't look too good. And when the Italian fly half scored in the corner with about 10 minutes to play, you thought, oh, this could be a Six Nations whitewash. And there's a bit of debate around the media centre. What is a wooden spoon? Is it finishing bottom of the Six Nations, or is it losing all your games? That's still up for debate, by the way. So feel free to chime in with your opinions on that one. But yeah, it was a late try right at the end of the game. After that, debatable knock-on decision, which was spoken about afterwards. And but more importantly, a good win for Wales, and it's good to see such a good crowd there as well. At the Principality Stadium, I think it's the biggest attended match for a Wales women's standalone fixture, and so it was really positive to see.
What was the attendance, Iestyn?
I think it was over 10,000. I think it was 10,500. I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, it was about 10,500 odd.
They
I'll
said
be honest,
they
it
sold
looked-
over 10,000 is what they said on the morning, and then whatever else was walk-ups. So and they were expecting quite a few because of Cardiff. So yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it did feel eerily empty.
Well,
I mean, they packed us all onto one side, so I hope it looked quite good on the TV. But it's things like you weren't allowed to sit too far back either. Because I wanted to sit a little bit further back so I could actually see get a better angle of the pitch. Like normally I go in the middle tier because I find that gives you the best overall pitch.
Before we do your little bit, Harley, okay, I'm just going to chirp in with some stuff for Iestyn first of all. So for me, a wooden spoon is no wins. Bottom of the table is bottom of the table, but a wooden spoon is no wins. And last season when we did Judgment Day, we were in the same lifts. Yeah, well, I assume it's the same lifts. And I was with Carwyn, which is a mistake anyway. Carwyn goes, well, I'm just going to nip down for a fag, and I'm trying to get a beer. And I go, oh, can't go. It was massive queue to go down the stairs and all of that kind of stuff because it was in between games. And Carwyn goes, oh, we'll go take the lift. I said, well, you can't. And there's two guys in front of the lift, big fuckers they were as well. And Carwyn walks up and he goes, VIPs only, mate. Yeah, I'm a VIP. And he fucking walks in the lift. It goes down. And I'm sitting there going like, what? He's just gone in the fucking VIP. Just no show of a badge, no nothing. Are you a VIP? Yeah, straight through fucking down the lift. So, yeah.
But that says more about the security arrangements at the Principality Stadium more than anything else, doesn't it?
Yeah, it did. Anyway, Harley, your thoughts on Wales women?
Yeah, I've said probably wasn't beat as. I mean, it was definitely much needed win. I mean, if you listen to Grow and where the origin of the first term for Wooden Spoon, it was just the worst student of the thing. So maybe Wooden Spoon is bottom of the table, and anyone could be Wooden Spoon. Um, Whatever. I mean, and then you've got the whitewash. That's the counter argument. I don't frankly care. It's not something we should be. Uh, it's not a debate I'm interested in, because the debate we should be having is why were Wales bottom? And we had the more professional with a very tiny p of the four other teams. There were talk before the tournament about Wales challenging France for second, and we ended up last, and very easily last as well. To the point of actually, I'm not entirely sure when we do the WXV2 playoff versus Spain. I wouldn't put my money on Wales winning that, because Spain plays a very good rugby and probably target a lot of Wales's weakness, which again was the defence out wide. We cut far too narrow. Some of those Italian breaks were happening, and at least Neumann on the right wing, she was in the midfield, she was basically in line with the centre of the posts, and something's going wrong. That's a system error, because that happens far too often to be coincidence. So the defensive coach needs to get them playing wider. Again, we scored 3 tries, all from the front row. We're not using our backs. The back line just seems to not really gel. The big one, so we were discussing off air, was the warm-ups. So I was watching the warm-ups, and the Italian women were going through, set moves, line-out drills. They're practicing their lifts. So, fantastic thing. And then it was a bit more of an amble about by the Wales women. And it didn't really look to me like the difference between watching the first team and the second 15 warm-up for games. It didn't look right. Maybe that's something that Wales have done intentionally to try and preserve some fitness, because they've been accused of looking a little bit leggy at the end of the games. But and even looking at when they were doing some line-out drills, the balls just weren't going right. It was some very bad throws and lifts and stuff. That was a bit of a worry. But I said, I'm glad we got the win, but I don't think it saves the coaching staff and the WRU. They've got to be looking at saying, why did we finish last when we should have been third, looking for second?
It's been a poor campaign.
I did think but not to say there weren't some very good games. Games for players like Alex Callender, Georgia Evans. I still think she's better in second row than at 8, but I thought she was unbelievably invasive. I mean, Purse and Tupelotu probably are 2 closest players we've got to shoe-ins for a women's Lions tour, because their scrimmaging is excellent and they are just such excellent ball carriers. I said Wales women have the exact opposite problem for a lot of the other Wales teams. They've got fantastic carriers up front, and then the backs just don't seem to click and don't work very well, which is unusual for everyone other than the Ospreys. I was glad it was a win, but it was also very disappointing that I'd say the performance probably wasn't where it should have been, and as the tournament as a whole.
Okay. Well, we know that Johan Cunningham follows us on Twitter, so we'll extend we'll assume that he listens to the pod every week, because that's what you do when you're a national coach. So we'll extend the invitation to him to come on and have a chat, because it would be good to. He's a really nice guy. Apparently, he is a really nice guy.
And I'd love him to put me in my place and tell me where I'm completely off base with this, because
I'd insist on it, mate. I'd insist on him putting you in your place. It would be worth it. Anyway, right.
Some of the Ospreys listeners who love that.
So, Iestyn, tell us about the rest of the women's final day, mate, if you could, please.
Yeah, so after the Wales women's game, there was the Cardiff-Edinburgh game. But for those who stayed at the Principality Stadium, had the 3 WRU National Women's finals. So it was the Plate, the Bowl, and the Cup. And let me just quickly find the results and fixtures. There was the first game between Club Rugby Cymru Caerdydd and the Old Penarthians. That was quite a good game to kick us off. I believe Club Rugby Cymru Caerdydd won that one, and it was a really entertaining game. Both sides trying to throw the ball about, and it was just high scoring, quite close, and what more do you want in a final? Then the second game between Bonamine and Haverfordwest was quite really another good final up to a good standard. I think it ended something like 29-26. Bonamine raced into a 29-12 lead, and then Haverfordwest scored 2 tries in about 3 minutes, and it was game on all of a sudden. And then Bonamine kicked a late penalty with about 3.5 minutes to go to seal it in a way. And shout out to replacement fly half Lawrence Smythe, who produced 3 excellent dummies. One of them built up to a try, and 2 other line breaks in the second half. There's a real good impact off the bench. And then the third final between Llandaff North and Seven Sisters in the Cup. Sadly, it wasn't as competitive as the previous 2 matches. There's a lot of talk about Llandaff North coming in as heavy favourites, and they took Seven Sisters to the sword. I think it was 13 tries in the end, as they won 85-14. And shout out to open side flanker Keris Bella, who scored a brace, which included 2 really good runs from well inside her own half. The second one was, and it's just really good to see. And Llandaff North were playing from everywhere on the field, and full credit to them.
Well, I know that so obviously I'm Pembrokeshire, Haverfordwest went up, but I also know a lot of the local other women's teams in the area went up to support, which I thought was really good. If Haverfordwest men's were playing in a cup final, I don't think Pembroke seconds would be going up to cheer them on. I don't think Tenby United would be going up. It feels like it was more of an occasion. It was a celebration of rugby, which I thought was good. I saw highlights of it. I saw extended highlights of it, and there were some bits on there that were really, worth watching, genuinely worth watching. So yeah, well done. Onwards, onwards,
lots
and
of
upwards.
Wales women's, so lots of women, like women community rugby teams around there. Some absolutely cracking kits on show. I didn't catch the name of the badge, and I didn't want to be caught staring at that area of women's hit. But it was just beautiful. It was like a white and pink hoop, and it was just absolutely stunning. And if anyone knows what the club was with that, please shout it, because I would like to buy one of those for my wall, because it was just that nice a kit. Although I did nearly give money to WRU for a Barbarians training top, and I refused eventually in the end, because it was beautiful.
When the women's game started and we launched the hubs and what have you, so I helped to launch one of the hubs in Pembrokeshire, and there was one of the mums who was a player, and she brought her girl there and was coaching and all that kind of stuff. And it didn't occur to me until after I did pretty much exactly what you just said, Harley. So they had like a club badge, but they'd obviously adapted a club badge, and there was like a pink stripe or something through the middle of it that was kind of like, so to signify this is the women's kit. And I genuinely went, "Oh, you got something on your badge," and went to kind of like, and I must have been like 3-4 inches away from doing that. And she starts laughing, and I'm on this, when it kind of dawns on you, and you go, "Oh Jesus, what have I just tried to do? Oh my God, I'm in so much trouble here," and all that kind of stuff. She took it fine, but it was a very, very easy mistake to just stand there and stare at that particular part of the shirt and go, that's an interesting part of the shirt. So beware. Just beware. They need to put the badges on the back. That's what they need to do. That's how we get around it with the women's game. Right, we're rapidly nearing the end this evening, gents, with no games to preview for this weekend. So Harley, give us a very, very quick rundown of the prediction league. And when I say a quick rundown, I mean let's skip fourth and let's work upwards. Let's just do third, second, and first, and we'll leave fourth. Just do prediction league from there. Off you go.
I wanted to say how well you were closing in on James until Joshua managed to get 2 first place predictions, including one spot on for the Dragons game.
Yeah,
Calling it by 7. I've pulled away, so I'm in first with 155 league points, total variance 584. Then it's Jamie on 145 league points with total variance of 617. Then it's James on 120 league points. His total, like, the things I might be sad enough and work like on average how far off we are in a game, but it's quite far is the answer, especially after I think between the Bulls and the Cardiff game, we really were not in the ballpark at all. Yeah, and then Lee, you're in last place with 112.
Yeah.
So it's actually not. But the problem is the gap between you and James has doubled.
Yeah, I was ahead of him at one point, but then I thought we'll have a laugh. We'll just do some funny stuff, and
It's because the start of the season we had Carwin, and that is just basically like a random number generator.
Well, no, that was only that he only did what, 1 game, 2 games. He was only there to say. I don't think James can blame that, mate. I think he's got to accept responsibility for being equally shit at predicting games as I am. So, that's just the way it's going to be. Right, okay. I'm just going to switch things up for just a second. So, have we got anything exciting on pods this week, then, gents? So those of you watching on YouTube, I hope this comes through on YouTube because I've just found this. I think it's fucking brilliant. It's like if you're on YouTube or you're on a call and you're on an iPhone and you do all of this kind of stuff, then fireworks and all of this go off. So yeah, anybody watching on YouTube, enjoy this view. So Scarlet's Fever this week will be my last Scarlet's Fever, so I'm gonna record it in just a few minutes. Yeah, but it's my last one, so I'm stepping away from that. Other than that, there's really not much to talk about on there. But Jamie, have you got anything exciting to look forward to on Dragons this week?
No, we're not doing a pod this week. We are trying to negotiate a time slot for a very special guest. It's proving quite difficult at the moment. So, yeah, that's a work in progress, but there will be no Dragons pod this week.
Okie dokie. Harley, anything exciting due on Cardiff this week?
Maybe not necessarily Cardiff, but we're going to have Craig Manson on from the Scottish Rugby Pod, so he's going to be very delighted about that result. But then we're also going to do a bit more of an overall review of the Women's Six Nations.
Cool. Okie dokie. So, Iestyn, I mean, there's no point even asking this because you wouldn't have even thought about what you're going to do for the Ospreys.
He'll be good player.
Yeah. Have you got anything planned for good player or any match reviews this week, mate?
Oh, we don't plan good player. We just do it 20 minutes before and just riff it.
Really, it definitely does not sound like that at all.
Well, we do. Sometimes it might come in a day before saying, "Oh, what are we going to do for good player then, everyone?" And you might get an early insight on what it is. But I think last week we just did it before we started recording. I just picked one of the nichest Ospreys wins in Munster that is rather forgettable. But yeah, that should be still there this week, if my assignments go well tomorrow. If not, then good player will still be there this week.
But yes, it might not.
Osprey Saracens from 2019-2020 season.
I was more looking at the Southern Kings game for the 2019-20 season, which included Dragons' new signing from
Solis. That's right.
Solis, he was on the right wing that afternoon. And
that
for
one you lost, or the one you didn't lose?
The one that there was a defeat with James Hook missing 2 penalties in the last 10 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, so Hookie's fault then.
On about that. Jesus Christ. Right. Iestyn, what about the Pod Cymru, mate? What have we got to expect on Pod Cymru? Tell people about Pod Cymru because we haven't really had a chance to tell people what Pod Cymru is, mate. So it's kind of like what we do here, only with proper people that know what they're talking about and in Welsh. Is that fair?
I wouldn't go that far if I'm on there, if I'm being brutally honest. But yeah, for those who are interested in or able to listen and speak the Welsh language, we've also got the Pod Rugby Cymraeg. There's myself, Karen Harris from the Cardiff Central podcasts, and Karen Evans, who is he doing a little bit with Scarlet as well?
Yeah, he's kind of taken over from me. Well, not taken over, but he's going to join Scarlet's Fever now. So yeah.
So there's the three of us there. It's kind of similar to what this podcast is really, but in the Welsh language. So if you know of anyone that enjoys podcasts in the Welsh language or likes listening to things in the Welsh language, send them over to that direction, and there must be some rugby to talk about from over the last weekend. So yeah.
The best thing with that is like I add it all the pods, so I kind of like I'll listen to bits through some of the other pods, and you can see on the wave thing where there's a drop off there and there's a drop off there, and I've not got a Scooby what you boys are talking about, but I'll listen to it all the same, and I'll pick up little bits as we go through, and I really enjoy it. I prefer, I'll be honest, I prefer listening to you on that than I do on the Ospreys Eyrie, mate. So, but that's just me being a Scarlet.
I'm surprised people enjoy listening to me at all, if I'm being honest.
What you need is a good can of love and hate from the Vocation Brewery, mate. That's what you need, liven things up. Right, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time again this week. I think we should finish every pod this week with a strange, it's called an immersive view. So for everyone watching on YouTube, this is a Zoom immersive view, and if you're listening on audio, it kind of looks like we're inside pictures on a like an art gallery in it. Yeah, but there's all sorts of stuff that we're going to mess around with just because why the hell not? So
grow up, Lee.
Yes, I know. No. Gents, thank you very much for your time. A pleasure as always. Enjoy your rugby. All the best, gents. Ta-da.
Ta-ra.
Ta-ra.
Thank you for listening to the Rap Podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording it. Please do rate us and tell your friends, as it really helps us to grow and get better. We'll be back next week for more of the same, and until then, enjoy your rugby.
Sports Social Podcast Network.